everybody, Liz here with another book review for you. Today I'm really excited to be reviewing Jocelyn Green's new book, Veiled in Smoke. I know the camera is not doing justice to this beautiful cover. In fact, it looks like there's a rainbow or something. I don't know what that's all about. Maybe it's coming across clearer for you than it is for me, but it doesn't do this beautiful cover justice. Anyway, this is Veiled in Smoke by Jocelyn Green, and it's book 1 in her Windy City Saga series. Say that 3 times fast. I'm not going to. So I'm really looking forward to books 2 and 3. There's a little bit of a hint of what I thought about her book. So let me pull up the back cover and we'll read the back cover copy to give you a little bit of an idea of what the story is about, because I just feel that this does it better than I could. Meg Townsend and her sister Sylvie lead a quiet existence managing the family bookshop. Meg feels responsible for caring for their father, Stephen, whose spirit and health are both damaged from his time as a prisoner during the Civil War. Her one escape is the paintings she creates and sells in the bookshop. Then the Great Fire sweeps through Chicago's business district. The fiery explosions and chaos stir up memories of war for Stephen as he runs from the blaze and becomes separated from his daughters. Days later, when the smoke has cleared, Meg and Sylvie manage to reunite with him. Their home and shop are lost, and what's left among the ashes may be even more threatening than the flames, for they learn that a close friend was murdered the night of the fire, and Stephen has been charged with the crime. After he is committed to the Cook County Insane Asylum, where they cannot visit him, Stephen feels as lost to them as the shop that now lies in rubble. Though homeless and suddenly unemployed, Meg must not only gather the pieces of her shattered life, but prove the truth of what happened that night before the asylum truly drives her father insane. So, again, a very unique premise for a book. I have to say, I've read 1 or 2 of Jocelyn Green's other books and have thoroughly enjoyed them. She likes to do the time period Civil War, around Civil War. This one takes place starting in October of 1871 during the Great Chicago Fire. So what did I love about this book? Well, I loved that it was set in 1871 during the Great Chicago Fire. I have to admit going in that I was a little bit hesitant about that. You see, I was a 4th grader in Wisconsin when I was growing up, and every 4th grader in Wisconsin learns Wisconsin history, including about the Peshtigo Fire. That fire happened the same night as the Great Chicago Fire. It was more destructive and took more lives than the Great Chicago Fire, and yet many people outside of Wisconsin aren't familiar with it because Chicago was a bigger city and it was not completely destroyed like Peshtigo was. So word was able to get out to the bigger, wider world. Whereas the Peshtigo Fire destroyed all of the telegraph lines, and it was actually days later before the world learned what happened in Peshtigo. Of course, there's also the legend surrounding Mrs. O'Leary's cow, which helps to make the Chicago Fire a little bit more famous or infamous, as the word may be. I loved that Jocelyn did address Mrs. O'Leary and her very infamous cow, and I'll let you find out what the truth was about how the Chicago fire started. Did it really start with a cow? One other thing I really loved about the book was that it did mention the Peshtigo fire. So kudos to her, because I started reading it not realizing necessarily what it was about. I had just read really good reports about it and wanted to read it myself. And I was so very pleasantly surprised when she did mention the Peshtigo fire. So kudos, Jocelyn. Thank you. All Wisconsin, every school child who grew up in Wisconsin thanks you for mentioning the Peshtigo fire in your book and not just forgetting about it. Beyond that, though, seriously, I really enjoy this book. Jocelyn has a wonderful style about her writing. She really captures the time period. And I loved the fact that it wasn't set during the time of the Civil War, but after the Civil War. And Meg's father, Stephen, is suffering from what we today call PTSD and what they then called soldier's heart. And it was so interesting to learn how they dealt with it and how these men who fought so valiantly to save the Union, what they suffered and during the war and then after the war when they were dealing with all of this trauma that they experienced in times of battle. That was extremely interesting to me, and I loved it. I loved all the literary references in the book. Of course, I'm a literary nut and enjoy reading, and so for me, that was fabulous to have all of those sprinkled in throughout. And the romance in the book was also wonderful and touching, and it played very nicely with the rest of the story. All right, so now one thing I did not like about the book. Notice I didn't say hate or not love, just not like about the book. I found a little bit off-putting that Sylvie and Meg call their father Stephen. Now, it could be that I missed that explanation along there somewhere, but that just bothered me a little bit, that in their thoughts, they refer to him as Stephen. As writers, we're supposed to be writing the way that we think. So we get inside our character's head and write as that character. So I don't think of my dad by his name. I think of him as Dad. He's always just Dad to me. And I found it a little bit off-putting that the girls think of their father as Stephen. Minor little thing, really, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't ruin the story for me whatsoever. I still thoroughly enjoyed it, but just a little minor point that probably is my pet peeve. All in all, a very well-written book by a wonderful author, another great job, and I am definitely looking forward to Windy City Saga Part 2. And that's the review of Veiled in Smoke by Jocelyn Green. Let me just make sure I got that title right. I am so bad. I am just so bad with titles and everything like that. I have such a hard time remembering them. Veiled in Smoke. I did get it right. Okay, good. So that's my review of Veiled in Smoke. If you enjoy these book reviews, please subscribe and like and leave me a comment. Let me know which books you'd like to see reviewed. Thanks so much for joining me. See you next time.